This is Kyle McCord, and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the Devy Debate.
Welcome to the Devy Debate. All right, boys, are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something, girl. You tweeted your running back rankings. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand, fellas. You jumped up a notch.
That's Austin Nace.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out, but
I'm Felix Sharp. Jake, I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
Screener draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncork for the end zone, and he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate, Dax Milne, on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields on the carry. Watch out! Justin Fields! Hello, Columbus! 51 yards!
Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Got to continue. I got it. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about.
Our apologies because Herbstreit ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. It's 9:30 Eastern time, the only time zone that isn't stupid. That means it's time for the Devy Debate, brought to you by CampusToCant.com. That's Matt Bruning, that's Austin Nace, and I'm Felix Sharp. And Chris Moxley joins the panel tonight on a reluctant version of tonight's show. As Jim Harbaugh's luck run out, should Caleb Williams transfer, and what new coach has the toughest job? But we start with Western Kentucky offensive coordinator Zach Keatley getting the offensive coordinator job at Texas Tech. Chris Moxley, this season, Western Kentucky was, and you gave me these stats, 9th in offensive EPA per pass attempt, 3rd in passing success rate, 17th in rushing success rate. Listen, it just, to somebody like me, they were lights out in the passing game. Is Zach Keatley going to Texas Tech? Is that the most important hire this season for the purposes of college fantasy, C2Cs, and Devy leagues?
I think so. He was kind of a revelation. We didn't really know if the Western Kentucky experiment was going to work. Lifted their entire offense from FCS, brought it to Western Kentucky, and it did. And I think he's a big part of that. I think his variation and the way that he's adjusted his offense from the air raid tree works. And I think it's going to work at really any level. And I think it's going to work really well at Texas Tech. So I'm really excited for all the pieces of that offense. There's rumors about Quinn Ewers going there. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. But whoever's quarterback there and the receivers there they're just in for a huge year. I'm really, really excited about what he does. And I think he's within 5 years like a Power 5 coach, a head coach. I just think he's that good.
Is he the Sean McVay of college football? Is he, be this young guy, and we're going to want all the guys that have done his laundry and his dry cleaning and caddied for him at the golf course?
He's already got that Patrick Mahomes name attached to him, right? He was the quarterback coach at Texas Tech when Patrick Mahomes was there. So, I find it hard to believe that's not playing a little bit of a role in his success.
Texas Tech is like the mecca for offensive gurus. I mean, so many of these offensive gurus have ties to Texas Tech. So I think the actionable information, the question that we need to answer is, if Zach Keatley is going to Texas Tech, then what positions do we need to target? So obviously the quarterback, but also slot receiver. Jareth Stearns for Western Kentucky had 169 targets, 130 catches this season. He lined up in the slot 93.4% of the time, according to PFF. Michael Tinsley, Western Kentucky's second leading receiver, lined up out wide 96% of the time. So the candidates to fill those roles, at least at this point, are Miles Price, who had a 91.3% slot rate. Friend of the show, Kyle Francis, is also a fan of his. Eric Ezukanma, who could actually declare for the NFL draft. He had a 80.2% snap share lining up out wide, and he was the actual leading receiver for Texas Tech this year. But that Michael Tinsley, who we just mentioned, he is in the transfer portal, and Texas Tech could be a potential destination for him. And Matt Bruning, I think that it's important because, well, one, Quint Ewers could potentially go to Texas Tech. I mean, that's I'm bearing the lead there. It's that that this quarterback that we're talking about, it could be Quint Ewers, and if not, it could be Donovan Smith, both of whom we're absolutely high on. But when we're talking about projecting draft capital, when we're talking about, guys who can put up points in fantasy, they have to be tied to a good offensive coordinator. And Zach, I want to key out Kitley. He's the hot name right now, and he could mean fantasy gold, not just for college fantasy teams, but if players are putting up good stats there, they could be potentially players that folks want on dynasty teams.
Yeah, and I'm very curious to see how that may change with we've got mocks running right now, so I'm very curious to see how some of the ADP will change on these guys. You mentioned Kyle Francis is big on Miles Price. I was mentioning him earlier as well in the offseason when I talked about Kanata Munfield as well. He's a guy who's been producing in the limited amount of work he was getting toward the back end of the season. Austin, I also really like Baron Morton, who's their quarterback there as well. I think even if he wins the job, he could be big there. Obviously, Quinn's the big name. That's the guy everybody wants to see there. But I think all these guys could not only just produce for you on the college side, but if they do, then have a chance to go on into the NFL and be something. And so the biggest thing I'm looking forward to then, with knowing the success that he had last year in Western Kentucky, or what he's done with that offense and coming over to Texas Tech, is how much does that shift the ADP and the price on some of these guys? Because all of them, including Ezu Kadma, who's really kind of the big name, at least early in the year, he kind of faded a little bit toward the end of the season, but he was really good to start off the season. None of these guys had any real draft capital coming into the season. So how much has that changed now with some of the mocks we're running? And then even further down the line, now that we know Kitley is there, or even if Quinn Ewers comes over, does that boost these guys up even more? I would still think a guy like Miles Price and maybe Moxley be able to tell me a little bit better on Tinsley, because I honestly do not know much about him. Does his value shift up more? Does Tinsley's value shoot up more with a Quinn Ewers going there, or what we project forward with that offense?
I think if Tinsley ends up there, he plays outside with Ezukanma. Kalen Geiger's leaving. I think that was his last year of eligibility. And so I think that if Tinsley does go there, and I think there's a good chance he does, because I think that he probably wants to follow Kitley, then we have three really strong options. And I kind of like their tight end, Zach Kuntz, too. I think he's not terrible. Or Travis Kuntz, sorry. I don't think he's a true freshman last year?
Or second year kid? He's young, right?
Yeah, he's young. It was his first or second year last year, and he played a lot of snaps for them. So I actually think he's a name to keep an eye on as well. Whatever quarterback is there and receivers are there, going to be productive. It just, who are they? Who are they?
Kuntz's value is suppressed a little bit because I believe he was injured for 3 to 4 weeks out of the year. So his final stat total isn't going to, make your eyes pop out of your head. But I'm pretty sure he came back with like 2 weeks left, and he had big weeks both weeks, or at least one of the two, or something like that. I mean, so he's definitely a guy to keep eyes on there.
Landing spot matters in college football, and Texas Tech is, if you have Kitley go there, if you have Quinn Ewers go there, then we need to start paying attention to not only the players who are going to get those roles in 2022, but how do their recruiting classes shape out over the next couple of years. We need to pay attention to that. All right. Speaking of landing spots, the fired Joe Brady, who put together that 2019 LSU team, that historic team, the records that Bailey Zappi is starting to approach. Joe Brady was instrumental in helping Joe Burrow establish those records. He is rumored to be going to Miami, or that's confirmed, or is that just rumored? It's rumored
not
that
confirmed yet. Yeah,
it's not confirmed
that he is going to Miami. Chris Moxley, I can't really get Austin Nace and Matt Bruning on board with how good Tyler Van Dyke is already. But what would it mean if you add Joe Brady to the mix as offensive coordinator?
It would not be bad for Tyler Van Dyke. I'll tell you that. I actually think the offensive coordinator hire at Miami is the most important coordinator hire of any of the new head coaches. But I think if they get Joe Brady, and I'm not even sure Joe Brady will take that job. I think he could if they're going to actually pay their assistants like a livable wage, then he might. But I mean, any offense that Joe Brady goes to is going to spike. And so I think wherever he goes, you're going to see a huge value spike in that player and probably production-wise.
Yeah, I agree with Moxley. Even if it's not Brady, I think this is a major hire. And one of the reasons I want to talk about this, it's not that I don't like Tyler Van Dyke. I've fully admitted to you he's looked better. I have not had a chance to dive into him, so I can't give an opinion on him. It is the way I look at it. I just like to say he's not good because it riles you up, and that's what makes this show so great, right? But I do think what Moxley said, the hire there is key because I like Mario Cristobal as a coach, but I do not like anything he does when it comes to the offense. I mean, we've seen a guy like Justin Herbert, who I think's probably got a little bit more skill than Tyler Van Dyke, and he looked like a like B+ quarterback in college with Mario Cristobal. And then he's gone to the NFL, and we've seen what he really can do. I think if they don't make a good hire, that could actually kill Tyler Van Dyke's value. If Joe Brady goes there, I'm with you. I mean, that's massive upside for TVD.
Well, we know that Florida is a recruiting hotbed. We've seen a couple of wide receivers enter the transfer portal. Elijah Cannon is from Florida. A Guy Hall is, I think, a Guy Hall's last season. I believe he finished. He was at IMG. Wasn't he? So
no, he was not at IMG. He played one of the big programs in Florida, but I don't remember which one. But it's not IMG. Corey Brooks was at IMG.
Okay, Brooks.
I think we could see a Guy Hall enter the transfer portal, and could. With Joe Brady, with Tyler Van Dyke there, could Miami be a destination for a big-time transfer portal wide receiver? I think that could potentially be the case. Speaking of landing spots, Austin Nace, I want to know who you think has the toughest job over the next 3 years. We've got Brent Venables at OU, goes from Clemson to OU. Mario Cristobal, who we just mentioned, going from Oregon to Miami. Lincoln Riley down or out west at USC. Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame. And then, of course, the Southern talker himself, Brian Kelly, the coach of the LSU Tigers.
So my actual answer is not on this list. I think the actual coach that has the toughest job is Billy Napier, but since he's not on the list, I won't go too deep into that, especially after the events of today. I don't expect coaches to hold on to an entire recruiting class, but to lose all of them almost immediately, and some of the rumors about why some of these guys chose not to stay is not great. But besides him, I think it's Brian Kelly. I think Brian Kelly has an extremely difficult job there at LSU. First, I think you have to go through kind of some of the things that just contextually surround him. No former assistants wanted to come with this man. No one that's currently with him at Notre Dame, no one that he'd worked with at prior jobs, no one that worked with him at Notre Dame and then left for a different job. Nobody wanted to come with this guy to coach at LSU. He's lost a lot of the bigger recruiting coaches that are already there on staff. They did just rehire, was it Frank Wilson, who was a big-time recruiter at LSU for early 2010. So that is a huge boon for him. But it doesn't seem like they have an incredible staff there right now. Their recruiting class right now, everyone wants to dog Florida's, and rightfully so. I believe Florida right now has like the 68th ranked recruiting class in the country or something. LSU's is also very, 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 very bad. They have, to my knowledge, one, maybe two useful skill players coming in. Dakotas Crawford just decommitted today. Walker Howard, should he choose to stay there, is the highlight of this class. He's lost Trevante Citizen. They're probably, if I had to guess, no longer in the running for a guy like Shaz Preston, who's from Louisiana. So all of these things coming together, the fact that Brian Kelly, in my opinion, is not a very good coach. He's a CEO type, and he's not being surrounded by a bunch of, middle management that make the CEO look good. I think he has a really tough job there, and I think we discussed a little bit on the last show that I think he's gone within 3 years there. I think he's the first LSU coach in 3 coaches that does not win a national championship there. And I think we look back on his time and we think they paid a lot of money to get nothing, really. I think they're going to be in a much worse state than they are now.
What are the rumors about why people are leaving Florida, Austin?
Nick Evers, for example, there was a rumor that Billy Napier showed up and said he was going to recruit a bunch of other quarterbacks in this class. When Nick Evers is like a top 5 quarterback in this class, and at this stage, maybe don't push people out the door when you're at National Signing Day and there's really no big, free names on the market. Like, don't price yourself. It's like going into an auction and it's at 100 and you just keep like 120, 140, and you're bidding against yourself. It's kind of what he did for a lot of these guys, so I don't really know.
Somebody check and see if Levi Lewis has any eligibility left. All right, Matt Bruning, who amongst this list, or who has the toughest job over the next 3 years?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I 100% agree with Austin, but since we already talked about Brian Kelly, I'll go to a different one, and I'm going to go Mario Cristobal. I just mentioned him a minute ago. I mean, Clemson is still the class of that conference, and I almost agree with a lot of what Austin said about Brian Kelly, the same about Mario Cristobal. And I think he's a little bit of a better coach and a much better recruiter, which could end up helping him in Florida if he's able to kind of turn Miami around to what it used to be and get players in there. But I don't know that he's a really good offensive or really even a defensive coach. And going into there, I don't know if they ever are going to be able to beat Clemson. I know he's an alumni there, so maybe he doesn't get fired, but I don't see Miami really being able to return on the investment they're paying him. Moxley mentioned it. They're really going to have to pay out to get these coaches because Oregon was willing to do that for him, which is why he was able to get a lot of the very good coordinators. I don't know that they're able to do that there. I mean, Lincoln Riley, I think he's the class of the Pac-12 now, especially with Cristobal gone. Venables, I think, is just jumping into a great situation. So at that list, I think I'd have to take Cristobal. I think he's the furthest away from having a really good team too, right? Like, I don't think that defense is that good. They've got Van Dyke on the offense, but I don't really trust a lot of their weapons either. They're probably a year or two away from competing. And as much as I think Dabo Swinney is kind of like a weasel and just an all-around weird guy, I don't know that, like, I think he'll be able to bring in good staff around him that will keep Clemson relevant moving forward.
Let's put some names on this Mario Cristobal as far as recruits. Penei Sewell, Justin Flo, Kayvon Thibodeau, Ty Thompson, Troy Franklin. I mean, there are some other names that we could – wait, Penei Sewell went to Oregon. No. Did Penei Sewell go to Oregon?
Yeah.
You're doing great, sweetie.
Yeah.
You're doing great.
Doing
okay.
Great. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Just to attach some names to Mario Cristobal as far as a recruit.
He's a great recruiter. I will give him that. But they were the best team in the Pac-12 for how long now, and they've made one playoff appearance and one national championship. Like, that's my point. He took advantage of the Pac-12 when it was down and did nothing with it. Clemson is not going anywhere. And if Dabo, the biggest thing I think hurting them is Dabo has always been afraid to use the transfer portal, which seems like he's kind of coming around on. So if that changes, I don't know that Clemson's still going to be one of the best teams in that division, and they're going to be better than anybody he's played in the Pac-12 since he's been there at Oregon. So that's why I hope he does, because I really do like Mario Cristobal, but I feel like he's got a lesser chance of success than the other two guys on the list.
Yeah,
Chris Moxley, who has the? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was basically nodding along with Matt because I do think it's Cristobal, but I'll preface that with Miami came out and said we'll have the highest assistant coordinator budget in the entire ACC. We want to build a stadium on campus. The people that hired Mario Cristobal are like his friends from Miami. Like, they're billionaire friends of Mario Cristobal's. Like, if they're willing to pay
Marcus
for him,
Simone is the prophet.
Yes. Like, they are willing to pay up for him. I think that they might actually make the investment in facilities, recruiting, analysts that can actually live in Miami and not like an hour and a half away. All those things really, really matter. And Miami has been operating like as a poverty university and not doing that for 15, 20 years. I think there's a chance they do that. And I think that Cristobal might be turning the page. And I think if he hires the right offensive coordinator, then we're looking at a really potential successful program. The one name that we don't have on the list that I'll briefly talk about, though, I think Dabo Swinney might be in trouble at Clemson.
I was going to put him on the list, actually, but he wasn't a trend. Yeah.
I think losing Brett Venables is tough. Like, they promote from within a lot for their coordinators. I don't think they have anybody to replace Venables. They lost Jeff Scott to South Florida last year. Tony Elliott isn't very good. They're going to lose him, which is probably not a necessarily bad thing. I think he's going to get the Duke or the Virginia job.
It's a net positive.
Yeah. But they're losing a bunch. They've been terrible recruiting the offensive line. The defense has been their best part, losing Venables. They only recruit one prototype at wide receiver. If I'm Clemson, like, I'm a little bit worried, to be frank. Like, I think they are going to have the toughest time of any team that has to replace staff this offseason. I think that they need to make a lot of changes, and Dabo's to make a lot of decisions that he's never done before.
It's the problem with CEO / cheerleader type head coaches. I think there's a really thin line between kind of those two labels for guys. But if you're not the brains behind anything going on the football field, I'm not to say Dabo's just some idiot who doesn't know anything about, like, he just discovered the forward pass last week or anything. But when you rely so heavily on those coordinators to do a lot of the heavy lifting around there, and they're no longer there, I agree. I think we talked about this on Campus Life this week. I think we're going to find out what Dabo's really about here in the next year or two.
The one thing I think that could help. No, go ahead.
No, go ahead, man.
The one thing I think could help Dabo, though, is he consistently gets good quarterbacks, which I think matters. And again, that conference as a whole is not that good. If we were talking about him being in like the SEC or the Big Ten or even now the Pac-12, I do think it would matter more. But the fact that conference as a whole is still down, and even if Cristobal brings back Miami, okay, so you've got two really good schools in there. Because as far as I know, Notre Dame's not going to come over to the conference. So if they do, maybe that changes things, because I do like Marcus Freeman there. I think, like Austin mentioned, losing – but Kenny Pickett's gone. I don't know that they're going to be that much better now. I'm just saying. With Tony Elliott leaving, the offense might actually take a step forward. So I that's my biggest thing. He continues. Why a couple of us at Campus Canton don't really like Cade Klubnik. He's rated a very high quarterback for a reason. That's one thing that he's consistently brought in is high-rated quarterbacks. And we see that those change the game in college. It really matters. So if he continues to do that, that's where I don't know that he fails. Again, I'd love to see it. Not a fan. I'm really not a fan of him. But I don't. I think with that alone, his recruiting of the quarterback could save his job for quite a while.
It has for a while too. Like, a good quarterback, Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence, has made up for a lot of issues on that team, especially on the offensive line and especially in the receiving core. So, like, we're gonna see what he's made of. Like, I think it's a really good way to put it, Austin.
Chris Moxley, with just one name, just give me one name. Who has the easiest job?
Can I do Lincoln Riley?
No. Lincoln Riley. Matt Bruning, who has the easiest job?
Riley.
Yeah.
Austin?
I'm going to say Freeman.
I'm going to say Freeman also. All right, Austin, let me turn it over to you.
I've been getting results. I am the guy you bring in when no one else can get stuff done. I just take care of everything. Housekeeping time, everybody. Everybody's favorite. 4 things to talk about today. First off, rate and review. Guys, I thought we had an agreement. I came in here 2 weeks ago. I yelled at you. I berated you. You guys gave us more rate and reviews. I went a little softer last week. You guys made me think that you were going to continue to do your job, and you didn't. So now I have to go back to the bad cop. Guys, get your rates and reviews in. We do a lot of different giveaways and stuff. It's coming up at the time of the year, the off season. We like to give stuff away. We cannot give you anything if you do not give us a review. Give us 5 stars. Tell us that you love us. Stroke Felix's ego. That poor guy. He cries when we don't get reviews. Give us rates and reviews. If you guys, similarly, giving things away, if you are not in our Discord at campustocanton.com, membership there, $2.99 a month, $29.99 a year. There are a ton of things that come with that membership, but one of them is access to our Discord. We are doing multiple giveaways in there this month. Signed college jerseys. I have a lovely Alabama Jerry Jeudy jersey. I have a lovely Javonte Williams, a really cool colorway, one of those alternate colorways that UNC does. I have one of those. We're giving both of those away only if you're in the Discord. So even if you're a member of Campus to Canton, you are not eligible to participate. If you are not in that Discord, just mute all the notifications, guys, but hop in there and get some free stuff. Last piece here, guys, Prize Picks. If you have not done Prize Picks yet, guys, it's really fun. All sorts of different player props. They have all sorts of sports. They've got esports. I don't even know what the heck that is, but it's on there. Go ahead, sign up there. Promo code C2C gets you an initial deposit match up to $100 and a free year with us. So if you don't want to pay that $2.99 to get into that Discord, sign up for Prize Picks. We'll win you money on there, and you get to chat with us whenever you want. That's pretty great.
Can't believe Austin is yelling at our listeners.
It's the only thing that works. It's the only thing that works. The carrot or the stick, they don't respond to the carrot.
All right. Guys, I want to talk a little bit about the playoff matchups, and we're going to have a lot of time to talk about the playoff given that they're at the end of this month. But let's start with Georgia, Michigan. Now, and Chris, as your guest, I'm going to throw this to you first. Alabama really exposed Georgia. We thought that they were this defense that couldn't be trifled with. Bryce Young exposes them. That's not the type of team that Michigan is. And I'm worried that Michigan is potentially playing into Alabama's strength. I definitely think it's going to be a low-scoring game. But can Michigan do the same? Can they expose Alabama? Can they continue to rely on Georgia? Can Michigan continue to rely on Hassan Haskins, Blake Corum, and whatever they bring in Donovan Edwards to throw some pass? Can they win that way against Georgia?
No. I mean, the reason Alabama was able to be successful is because they have Bryce Young. Are you really going to put the game in Cade McNamara's hands and say, okay, go beat Georgia? Probably not. I really don't think that's a recipe for success. And they beat Ohio State because they could run the ball. And Ohio State was a great win, but they're built a lot differently than Georgia. And Georgia is top 3 defense. They rank top 10 in line yards. They rank top 5 in rushing success rate on defense. They're an elite. They're just an elite defense. They're an elite front 7. They have a bunch of the best players in the country. I don't know how Michigan saying, hey, Cade, go in this game for us is going to go, especially since they're missing all their great receivers. Ronnie Bell isn't playing. It's been the Cornelius Johnson show. And I don't really like their odds at that point.
Matt, same question. Can Michigan play this telephone booth game and come out with the victory against Georgia? Both of these teams really want to play the same way.
I don't know that they can win. I feel like we talked a lot about this on the after show last week, but I do think Michigan can stay competitive with them because I just don't think that Stetson Bennett is going to be able to do. No, it's not a bad thing. I'm not criticizing him as a quarterback. I think it's because of what Hutchinson and Jabo are going to be able to do in pressuring Bennett. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I know Austin mentioned James Cook might be able to get 80 passing yard or 80 receiving yards or something like that because he's going to get a lot of dump offs for screens or because of where Michigan is weak on their defense and the linebacking core. But I do think that they'll be able to run the ball a little bit because say what you want about that being Georgia's strength, Alabama didn't really try to do that. And I think it's fair to say Hassan Haskins and even Blake Corum are better than Brian Robinson. And so I think that they'll be able to have some success. Cade McNamara, they may not ask him to be Bryce Young, but if he's good when they need him to be and complete passes when they need him to, Michigan's going to stay in the game. I don't know that they win, but I don't think this is a blowout. I think this could very easily be a 17-13, 17-10 game where, again, a critical bounce of the ball could go Michigan's way. A block, because they've blocked field goals this year. They blocked a blocked field goal, a blocked punt that turns into 7 points could swing the game, but I just don't see this one being a blowout. I think it's going to be a close game.
So I don't think enough people are. Everyone's calling this past game that Alabama won against Georgia Bryce Young's Heisman moment, but I haven't really heard anybody talk about that was the best game that I've seen a quarterback play in college football this year. I don't know what PFF graded him as. I don't use PFF grades at all. I don't know why all of a sudden this whole industry has really shifted toward using them. But whatever he was graded as, he should have been 100 on whatever scale. He was standing on his head, especially that first half. He basically played a perfect football game. It was incredible. Instinctually, technically, feeling the rush in the pocket, leaving the pocket when he needed to. That little play where the two guys came screaming off the edge, stepped up in the pocket, broke a tackle, approached the line of scrimmage, and shovel passed it off to Brian Robinson was just like genius. Cade McNamara couldn't do that if you gave him a million chances to do that same exact play. If you put him in a simulator and you just let him do it over and over and over again, he couldn't do it a single time. Now, I do think I have been very critical of JJ McCarthy, and I still don't necessarily think that highly of him as a player, but he's the kind of guy where if he had another year there, he was another year older, had kind of gotten to experience a lot more college football. That's the kind of quarterback that they need back there, the kind of guy that can really function off script, which is what JJ McCarthy is really good at. He just can't do anything in the context of an offense at all, basically, at this point. If JJ McCarthy was a year older and was starting in this game, I would give Michigan a puncher's chance. But, I mean, Bama ran the ball for the running backs 22 times this week, and they got 70-something yards out of it. Like, even if you think that Michigan has a more effective running game, I don't think it's not that much more effective than that. They're gonna be under 150 yards rushing, and McNamara is not going to pass for over 150 yards. So, where's the offense coming from?
Can I just quick to Austin, 85.4, or I'm sorry, 85.8, which was not even his highest grade throughout the season. He had
if you want any sort of evidence as to why PFF grades are total garbage, except for maybe anything other than offensive line play, because I have no idea how to evaluate that besides, whether they're just killing them or not, that grade is trash. That grade is trash.
We could see a game similar to what we saw on Monday Night Football with the Bills and Patriots between Michigan and Georgia, where we're just going to let Hassan Haskins run the ball 50 times and McNamara throw it 3 or 4 times. Chris, Jermaine Burton. So Todd Monken's offense has been, run the ball, throw the play action over the top. And we thought that this year that, especially with George Pickens out, that Jermaine Burton would be, kind of take a real step after his very, very good freshman season where he really had one game where he exploded, but it was a COVID-shortened season. But we knew he was one of the most athletic freshmen in his class. What are we supposed to make of this second season? Can we chalk it up to Stetson Bennett in the quarterback switch there? I mean, do you think that he will be fine here moving forward, or are you concerned about Jermaine Burton given how highly we had him ranked? Some of us in the top 10, 15. I think I had him in the top 10 to start the season.
Yeah, I think at this point you have to be worried. Not only from his raw production, right? So he only has 100-yard game in his entire career out of 20 and 4 games over 58 yards. So just like a raw stats perspective, that's not very good. That one big game that you were talking about against Mississippi State last year, that still accounts for 24% of his entire career production. It's I don't know how much he's really relying on that one game to really keep the wheels moving there. But even analytically, right? His year one production was good, but it wasn't great. His yards per team pass attempt were slightly above expectation. Yards per team pass attempt matters insofar that it helps measure volume while also measuring efficiency. And over time, we've realized that efficiency is fairly sticky, and you need to be able to do something efficiently to translate to the next level. So that's why I prefer that number over maybe a traditional dominator rating, right? The over expected portion of that is how far above or below a player was compared to players who went to the NFL and then posted a top 24 season. So when you see Jarek's magic line, whether you're above or below that, that is above or below expectation. This year, Burton comes in and he posts a yards per team pass attempt 0.78 below expectation and a weighted dominator 15% below expectation. Those are both really, really bad numbers. And you can say what you want about Stetson Bennett, but heading into the Alabama game, he had the 12th highest average yards per team pass attempt since 1956. He was having a great year. Then he threw for 390 yards against Bama, even in catch-up, and Jermaine Burton wasn't a part of that. It's there's a lot of excuses being made about Jermaine Burton. We can say, okay, the injury. Okay, well, we can look at his injured numbers, 1.53 yards per team pass attempt. You're looking for 2 yards per team pass attempt in a player's second year. He's still not close. He's just not hitting the numbers. He's a guy I'm really worried about long-term. He has to have a really good third year to make up for what he did this year and really lack of production freshman year outside of one game.
Austin, how far down do we need to drop Jermaine Burton?
I've been dropping him, and I mean, should I talk about this now? Do we move this in the sheet? Are we talking about this at this stage? Him and Raheem Jarrett are both guys that are just huge sells for me this offseason. They just both woefully underperformed expectations. I'll go find the next speculative year one guy. I can probably move them for that guy and then try again.
Matt Bruning, let's move here to Cincinnati versus Alabama. You know, Cincinnati is supposed to have a defense and a secondary that could limit Alabama's offensive weapons. They're not going to have John Mechie. You would think that they can focus on Jamison Williams. I mean, what are the chances that Cincinnati comes within 14 points of Alabama here?
I think it's possible. I know everybody else is going to say it's not true. I am looking forward to that the Sauce Gardner versus Jamison Williams matchup, though. I think that might be the best matchup of the playoffs with as good as he's been. I mean, again, I know the expectation is Bama's just going to go out there and blow them out. Maybe it happens. I really think that, you know, I mentioned this with Michigan on the tailgate the other morning or last weekend when they played Iowa, that I really think this game is going to be very close going into halftime. Then we'll see what happens, because Alabama has the depth and the talent to really kind of blow that open in the second half. But I do think Luke Fickell is a very good coach, and Cincinnati has good players on their team. I think that they can keep it close. I do not expect them to win the game. I think I said in our Slack channel today that I think they're going to win. I don't know that they win the game, but you know, I think a lot of it, too, is going to come down to what Desmond Ridder do we get? Do we get the Desmond Ridder we've seen at times in the back half of the season who's actually played really well, or do we get that Desmond Ridder who's very inconsistent in the first, second half, not missing wide open wide receivers, making bad plays, and then turns it on the second half? So if you do that, you're going to be down 30-0 going into halftime against Alabama. He's got to play well to start off the game. I think that defense with Robinson, I guess, might be back by that point because that's a month away. But if Robinson's still banged up, I don't know that they have to worry that much about the running game because I don't think they have really that guy in the backfield. With the loss of Mechie, I think that really kind of hinders that core. It's going to be, can they get pressure on Bryce Young and can they keep Jamison Williams in check? If they can, then I do think Cincinnati has a chance to really keep this close because I don't know that any of those freshmen take a massive step forward and make a huge difference in this game.
I want to get worked up about this game, and I just can't get that excited about it. I don't think it's that, you know, since he's this G5 team and they're not, I don't respect them or anything like that. It's Alabama in the playoff again, deservedly so. There's no controversy. They didn't lose this past weekend and still make it in. They're Alabama. They're going to do Alabama things, and Cincinnati is just not really a fun team to watch at all. Like it's Desmond Ridder, it's Jerome Ford, and then it's like Alec Pierce. Like Desmond Ridder just underthrows him and he makes circus catches. Like it's just not a fun offense to watch at all. If Bama gets up early, there's like zero chance that this turns into a game that I want to watch beyond halftime.
Can I just make one counterpoint to that?
Sure.
And I'm not saying that they are this team. If Cincinnati attack, because I think Bama is very good, but they're not the Bama we've seen of old. Cincinnati has players. Jerome Ford is not Zeke Elliott. Desmond Ridder, in my opinion, is better. Well, yeah, I know. He's better than Cordero. I cannot remember his name now. But
the guy
whatever.
Who didn't come to play school?
Yeah, the guy who didn't come to play school. Why his name has jumped out of my head now, I can't. But third string quarterback that led them to a national championship. If they attack Bama like Ohio State did in that game, I do think Cincinnati can actually win the game. Jerome Ford, I think they can run on that defense. Will Anderson's going to cause issues for Desmond Ridder. I disagree, Max. I think that they're going to be able to run a little bit. Jerome Ford, he's not Zeke Elliott, but if they can keep the ball away from Bama, run the ball, I do think that they have a chance to get. I don't know. Maybe I'm giving Cincinnati too much credit, but I think that they can hang tough with Bama for most of the game and at least keep it a close game.
Chris, you got some good stats here. Let me let you give those numbers.
Yeah, this is. I was researching this earlier. I just thought it was funny, right? So the average weight of Alabama's offensive line is 315 pounds. Cincinnati's D-line is 272 pounds. The difference is an average of 43 pounds per player. If you compare that to the Cincinnati O-line versus the Bama D-line, it's only 17 pounds per player. Like, those boys from Alabama are going to destroy the line. This game in the trenches is not going to be close. And Cincinnati's offensive line actually isn't really that good. They're like 46th in line yards, and that is basically how many yards your line creates for you each play. Whether it's a rush play or pass play, doesn't matter. It's just the average. Alabama ranks 3rd, and they were doing that against SEC opponents. Cincinnati was doing that against like Tulane. So I don't think this game is going to be close, and I think it's really going to be one in the trenches. We saw the best performance on both sides of the ball for Alabama's lines, and I think they're just gelling as a unit right now. I just don't think this game's they just got bigger guys, more athletic, bigger guys in the trenches.
Alec Pierce, who Matt Bruning could not stop when we played NCAA down in Columbus. All right, boys, are we ready for the Devy debates?
Let's do it. Got fresh meat in here tonight to dominate. Woo.
Austin, you answered this question already. Jermaine Burton, a sell in all formats?
I think you have to. Yeah, I mean, beyond just what Chris said about him, I think the community at large has not adjusted the rankings at all to really reflect how disappointing his season was. I know I've bumped him down a lot of spots. It probably still isn't enough, but I still see a lot of places where he goes 2nd, 3rd, 4th rounds of, C2C startups or Devy drafts. And that's just not, in my opinion, like the value is no longer there with him. Like I don't want to be left holding him. If he disappoints for a couple more games, everyone catches up starting the next year. So I think, he's just a guy that is completely off my board. I don't know if it's Georgia's offense. I don't know if it's him. I don't know if it's a little bit of both. But yeah, I'm just done with Jermaine Burton at this point.
Agreed, but I'll kick back on. I would keep Jarrett. I still believe in Jarrett and his talent. I know he has not produced. I don't really trust Maryland and Talia and all that. So Jarrett, I think, still has the talent to be a top guy. And I think his value is deflated a little bit more than Burton. So I haven't seen the recent mocks to see how much later he is or isn't going. But I still believe in Jarrett, but I'm with you on Burton. I dropped him quite a bit.
Burton and Jarrett had like basically the same analytical season, and one was competing with like better players at Georgia, and one was competing with like 3rd string guys after Dante Demas went down. Like, I don't want either guy right now. The same way I don't want Marvin Mims. The same way I don't want like a lot of those 2nd-year guys that last year won. Like, I think the 2023 class outside of Butte, Addison, JSN, like, it's not as deep as I think we thought it once was. Like, there were a lot of disappointments this year, and everything I said about Burton applied to all those guys. Same profiles basically now.
I have all their
ADP after that.
I have all their ADP here. If anyone just wants me to briefly kind of say what's going on. So we're running 4 Campus to Canton mock drafts right now. Campus startups. Raheem Jarrett is still going as wide receiver 6 overall. He kind of starts the 2nd tier of receiver at 25.5 is his average ADP. Jermaine Burton is going wide receiver 15, which is actually lower than I thought he would be. Average ADP of 52. And the wide receivers that go between the two of them, wide receiver 6, wide receiver 15, are Quentin Johnston, Marvin Mims, Ja'Cory Brooks, Emeka Egbuka, Parker Washington, JoJo Earl, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Mario Williams. So that's the tier that those guys are all in. And the top 50 of campus startups is basically a Devy draft anyway. So, with minor modifications.
All right, now, without Lincoln Riley in the fold, Caleb Williams should transfer. Chris Moxley.
No, because they brought in Levy from Ole Miss, and I think that's actually a good fit for him. Runs an offense that I think Caleb Williams could actually succeed in. Like we saw, like Matt Corral's fairly mobile. He's not Caleb Williams, and I think that a lot of the same concepts they use this year can be accentuated with Williams behind or under center. And I don't think he's going to transfer because he was at Venable's press conference. So that's reading between the tea leaves kind of stuff. I think he's going to stay, and I think he should.
Let's put an exclamation point on that, and Levy running an offense more suited to Caleb Williams. So that's that heavy RPO scheme that Lane Kiffin runs. And I think I've said this in so many words on other shows. Lincoln Riley's play calling for Caleb Williams this season was absolutely terrible. These long developing 5-step drop back type plays, that is not the type of player that we thought he was coming out of the tri-state area. More of a Jalen Hurts type player. They didn't emphasize him in the designed running game. I think that Levy is going to do that given the offense that he's coming from. And I would say that offense is more suited for Caleb Williams' strengths as opposed to what Lincoln Riley was doing for him this season. So I agree with you. That he should not transfer. But I am worried about them losing recruits because he's got to throw the ball to somebody. Hopefully in the bowl game he throws it to Mario Williams. I think I need like 90-something yards out of Mario Williams this season.
Does the bowl game count? I'm sorry.
Yes,
I didn't know we were counting playoffs.
Yes, it counts. Yes, it counts. Yes,
I'm not even scared. That's the best part. It doesn't worry me at all.
Well, you both need to answer. Caleb Williams, should he transfer? I mean,
no.
Matt?
Pre or after Levy now. I know everybody wants him to transfer, but unless he was going back to Lincoln Riley, which you already just mentioned, Felix, he was not doing a good job calling plays for him anyway. I don't know where he could have gone that was going to be much better. Like, everybody wants these players to transfer. I just don't think there's that many great offensive minds in college. So you're talking about, oh, hey, transfer. What if he goes somewhere that's even worse off than where he was at Oklahoma? We knew he was going to be the starter. Venable's coming in there. If he was like, hey, we're going to continue to work around you, you're our guy moving forward for the next 2 years. Like, sometimes the grass is not always greener on the other side. So, no, I think he should have stayed regardless pre and after the move. I think he just stay at Oklahoma. You know what you've got there and continue to dominate that program.
And I believe the runner-up in his recruiting was Maryland, and I don't know that that's a good fit either. Austin, you're on board. Caleb Williams should stay put.
I think he should, partially because I have a lot of Jackson Dart across a lot of my leagues. But also, yeah, I mean, I think there's something to be said for, it's going to be a good offense and just staying at one school as a quarterback and having as much consistency, even though it's a slightly different coaching staff. I think it's just something to be said for that. I do.
All right. We talked a little bit about that Alabama Cincinnati game. Chris Moxley, Ahmad Sauce Gardner from Detroit King, Detroit Stand Up. Can he neutralize Jameson Williams? And without John Mechie, I think I know your answer to this question. Can Cincinnati shut down Alabama's offense? It's a two-part question.
You're muted.
Chris Moxley is talking while he's muted.
Yes, that's classic, Felix.
You're doing a great job. You are elevating the level of the show, except for the last few moments notwithstanding. You're elevating the level of the show.
You were great until 30 seconds.
No pressure though, right? No. So what I was saying was when I was muted was who's the best corner or the best wide receiver that Gardner has lined up against over the last 2 years? Do you think it's Jack Sorensen from Miami, or do you think it's Nathaniel Dell from Houston?
Well, they did play Georgia in the bowl game. He didn't play
that game.
He was lined up. Oh shit!
He was out that game.
Yeah.
And George Pickens went for 175 and won. Maybe it's Danny Gray from SMU. Although I think Danny Gray might have been hurt that game. So maybe it was Dylan Goffney from SMU. So I think Sauce Gardner is a very good player. He's lanky. He uses his size to break up passes, but he doesn't have long speed. He's good recovery speed. Doesn't have good long speed. Jameson Williams is a bad matchup for him, I think. And I also like the guy they have on the other side, Kobe Bryant, C-O-B-Y Bryant. I think he's a really good corner as well. And I think he's someone who's probably going day 2 if he comes out. But I just think Jameson Williams is a bad matchup for them. And we've seen Ja'Cory Brooks actually take a couple steps. And I think he could fill in for Mechie because I don't think Mechie was really all that exciting. And I think maybe they'll get JoJo Earl on the field. If JoJo Earl can do something, like I think the speed on that Alabama team is going to cause problems for that secondary. And I don't think Gardner can keep up. Like, I don't think he runs he ran a 4.74 or 4.77 coming out. I think he's faster than that, but I don't think he's 4.4 speed. I think he's probably low 4.5s or maybe high 4.5s. I'm not sure, but I think it's going to be more problematic than people realize, despite how good Sauce Gardner has been.
I don't know how Cincy is planning on going about this without Mechie there. What would you not just do the Belichick thing where you put the second best corner and a safety over the top on the best wide receiver, and then you put Gardner on whoever the wide receiver 2 is? Like, I feel like that's the better route, like 98% of the time. And I think it's probably the best bet, especially with Mechie out.
Probably, right? Like,
I don't know what they're planning on. Like, I don't know if they do that. We haven't seen Gardner have to go up against a big wide receiver to know what they're going to do, as you stated.
I mean, Jack Sorensen's close, but Jack Sorensen isn't quite Jameson Williams.
You could mistake the two of them if you kind of squinted a little bit, and it was, the lighting wasn't great in the room you were in,
and TV was off.
If Sauce Gardner plays against Jameson Williams, they line up against each other under 50 yards in the game. Under on Jameson Williams. That's how much I believe in Sauce Gardner. Under.
Gardner has been really
to be honest, Matt. So let me I know you were talking about you think this isn't going to be a blowout and so on. Yeah. If Jameson Williams has under 50 yards. Does that mean that Alabama doesn't score more than 24 points?
Is going to be a good game. The other reason I think Bama's not going to come in there. I hate to go back to the subject we already talked about. Bama's not coming in this with any other preconceived notions. They're just going to roll over him. Nick Saban is not the greatest coach in college football for no reason. Luke Fickell and Cincinnati have absolutely nothing to lose and everything to gain in this game. I just think there needs to be a lot to be said about that. The only teams that have ever made it to the 4th seed and the Notre Dame teams, I don't think they felt that way. Cincinnati's got a massive chip on their shoulder, and that matters. And Sauce Gardner, I do think, is a very good cornerback. I don't know if they go the route that you just mentioned, Austin. Maybe they put him on a different guy and put the safety over the top. Probably would be the smarter decision because you get the 2 guys on Jameson Williams and let Sauce Gardner just cover the other guy and maybe force Bryce Young to make plays or run the ball. But I do think if he is up on Jameson Williams, I do think he's going to shut him down. I think he is I've watched Cincinnati all year. It feels like every week we've covered them on Coast to Coast. I've picked to watch them because I really like that team. Desmond Ritter's biggest fan at the site, apparently. So I've watched them all season long. Like Gardner, I think is a very, very, very good cornerback. He will be able to shut down Jameson Williams.
I'm going to tell you why that's not true. It's because Alabama's line is going to be able to keep Bryce Young clean, and even if they don't, he's going to be able to extend plays. And I don't care how good Sauce Gardner is, he's not going to be able to keep track of Jameson Williams for 5, 6, 7 seconds. First of all, no corner could, and he's not going to be able to. So I'm going to agree with Austin and Chris here. As a matter of fact, I think that this game could potentially hurt Sauce Gardner's draft stock, to be honest with you. I can see Jameson Williams going for like 200 yards receiving in this game. I'm being honest. All right. I think that's it. Anything else? Anything else before we close out the show? That is going to do it for us. Make sure you check out all of the content around the Campus to Canton family, the articles, the podcast channel, including Canton Bound, Campus Life, Fantasy Roundtable. And are we still doing Why Wait Till Sunday? No, it's DF.
It's a mystery.
It's not DFS.
It's a mystery.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery. All right. That's our show for tonight. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We will get him rescheduled soon for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace and Chris Moxley. I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck.
We should have had a second Reali lined up to come in and fact check Chris.
That would have been
yes.
It just that would have been funny. Man, Chris, I thought you did the real. I think you elevated your. You were like the Jason Kidd today, and just dishing and elevating everybody's play.
I appreciate that. I love listening to the show. So I always enjoy this topic of conversation. I like thinking in my head along with what you guys are saying. I'm like, all right, I agree with what Austin's saying, or Austin's a fucking idiot, or oh, Matt's actually right this time. Awesome. Or Matt and I,
Does that happen like
the,
once, like every 4 or 5 episodes? Like
we're actually on the opposite of everything, like a lot too. Even on the tailgate, like we're always picking against each other too.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So
I like to go
that's
against
just
the
funny.
grain. Someone here's got to do it. All you guys are just yes men, always agreeing with each other. Someone's got to mix it up. Like, no, you're all fucking wrong.
Yeah, I think Jameson Williams embarrasses. So I just don't.
I do too. It's gonna be like Jerry Jeudy, or not Jerry Jeudy. It's gonna be like Devonta Smith last year. Like it's gonna
Ohio State didn't have a cornerback like a fourth of the talent of Sauce Gardner. I mean, Sean Wade was.
It just doesn't matter because of the rules. You cannot guard for as long as Jameson Williams is going to be open. I mean, you could put Darrelle Revis out there if you wanted to. He can't guard for 10, 12 seconds, and he's going to get open, especially if they try to – there's no way. I don't care who you are. I'm not singling up Jameson Williams. And there's just –
Well, I think this iteration of Bama, I don't think you have to single him up, though. Like, exactly. I mean, I'm not saying there's no other talent in that wide receiver room at all, but like, there's no one else now, especially now that Mechie's out, and Mechie doesn't.
Well, it's gonna be Brooks is gonna have 3 weeks to practice as the starter. Does a guy Hall is not going to be at that school next year?
Man,
to me, he's as good as God.
I nailed the entire run up on that bold prediction up until the name Ja'Cory Brooks. I said Bama, a high-profile wide receiver transfers. It's not Christian Leary. And then I went for.
They've got
Brooks,
playing
like
running back
idiot.
now. I can't believe Christian Leary. JoJo Earl is hurt though too, I believe.
Yeah, he is. He got hurt in that New Mexico game. It's not like a ACL or anything, but it was probably enough. He might be back for this game though. They said.
I was going to say, I think this potentially is playing.
Yeah.
But I actually think Ja'Cory Brooks is a guy who, like, if I had one player I want to acquire before the national championship, playoffs, it's probably him. Because like, I think he could eat against Cincinnati too. And I like their second corner. Like, I think Kobe Bryant's really good. But like, I don't think Ja'Cory Brooks is being properly valued. I think he's someone I'm probably going to try to. Before this gets released, I wonder, can I trade Jermaine Burton for Ja'Cory Brooks? Probably not, right? Nobody's going to do that.
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
Somebody not paying attention.
See if I can do that before.
Ja'Cory Brooks is ADP. Yeah, he's wide receiver 9 overall, 34.5. He is going ahead, but I think it depends on the owner.
He does too. See if I can do that real quick. I drafted a lot of Jermaine Burton.
It's like what I wanted to do. Like I wanted to get rid of Julian Fleming where I had him last year, and it was kind of hard.
What is Fleming's ADP right now?
Dude, him and
he shouldn't have one.
So
he shouldn't have an ADP. He should not have an ADP.
Like, and I will excuse a lot of the early ADP for this because I do think we have, in majority of these drafts, are fairly savvy drafters. We have one that's a lot of newbies. But what I will say about them is that there is like no established ADP right now. There are no established rankings, and there is so much uncertainty about transfer portal, recruiting, and who's declaring for the draft. That like I really struggle to gauge value for a lot of players right now, to be honest. Like I think like I'm doing an okay job now, and we'll look back at this in April and I'll be like, like that was such a stupid draft that I did.
I agree. I had a really I'm in the one draft, and I had a really tough time picking players. Like it was really, really challenging outside of like the first 3 rounds. Like I went Stroud, Mayer, Jadon Blue, and then like I like Drake May, Evan Stewart, and then I went like 4 straight quarterbacks. Like I don't know where else to go in some of these drafts because it's really, really tough right now. Like the ADP's got to be all over the place. Like I think I took Seth Hennigan in the 8th, and I saw him go in like the 12th in another. I was like, probably could have waited.
Yeah, there's some interesting players going.
What do you about Julian Fleming out or something? Because like
we got to do what?
Put a PSA about Julian Fleming out. Like, what is going on?
That would be a really funny video.
I was just saying.
Yeah. I agree with you. He and Demas should not have an ADP.
It's fantasy sites who haven't updated their Devy ADP yet. Basically, is what it is. Driving that. So I don't think like that's what it is. I think like I don't think anybody here is advocating taking Julian Fleming, Demas in any capacity whatsoever. Like I would not draft him in 45 rounds.
I've told this story. I mean, I accidentally took Demas because I was sorting a queue in that Shaq league, and I was like, "Am I okay with this?" And I was like, "It'll be fine." And then I like immediately afterwards, I was like, "I'm not okay with this." And I should have. I don't know. I just didn't want to ask to be the guy in a league that expensive being hey, I didn't mean to take this guy. Can we rewind here? But
the year 1-0 stuff. Hold on one second here. Matt, I do not have it for Devy Debate. Can you text me the info?
Yeah, because I was about to say I'm probably gonna
I can upload it tonight.
So
yeah.
All right. I'll talk to you guys later.
Love you.
Take care.
All right, Matt. See you later.
I didn't say love you back. What a jerk. I like the year 1-0 stuff. Like it really, like if you're a non-zero, it doesn't necessarily mean you're good, but I think we can pretty definitively say at this point, going back over the last like 8 years of data, that if you are a zero your first year, you're not like you're bad.
Is that true
I mean?
across all skill positions, or is that true like specific players? Because I think quarterback is probably an exception there.
So I only do it for wide receiver. Like
okay,
I know that Sal went after the fact and kind of looked at running backs, but I think running backs as a whole, like the rankings aren't necessarily very good for them at a 24/7. So I think they're a little harder to evaluate. And I also just think circumstances are quite different with them. Like I haven't figured out what like the sweet spot would be to call them a zero. Like I'm fairly confident in what I have set up for the wide receivers. But
now that Matt is not here, I mean, are we really going to have to like lock him out of this for him to take a break? Are we just going to have to just not
change the passwords to everything?
Change the passwords to everything.
Kick him out of the Discord.
Because he was not supposed to be on today. He was not supposed to be on today. And he podcast what? 3 out of 5 days of the 3 business days? Oh, what about and then the program stuff?
Yeah.
We should put it on the poll. Like, should we kick Matt off the show for a month and see what people have to say about that?
I think he needs a break.
He's working too damn hard.
I'm all about the N64 now. I can't do anything. I think I'm done with college football as a whole. I'm everything about me N64.
What are you playing? Are you playing GoldenEye?
I didn't buy GoldenEye initially just because I didn't like. I remember playing that when I was younger. I didn't own an N64, but I had a lot of friends that did. But is there a robust single player version for that game? Like I just remember playing.
Yeah, no, there's a single player mode. Oh yeah.
Okay, because I didn't buy. I bought
player. You do all the missions. Yeah.
I bought Mario Kart, Smash, and Pokemon Stadium, the first one. So
I never even played. I never played those.
I bought it like for Mario and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's like I don't play first person shooters anymore. Like I don't have that fucking time to play. Like I used to play Halo all the time, and then I got into COD. Like
you know what I miss about that style of video game where you had the cartridge is that when you turned it on, it was on immediately. Like,
dude, there are like no, like it literally just cranks the game up. I'm like shocked by this.
It's
blown my mind.
There's no delay. Yeah. There's no delay. You just play the damn game. I remember playing Madden on that. There was a hockey game when the Red, like in the late 1999, 2000, when the Red Wings were really good, were competing for the Stanley Cup and winning the Stanley Cup. They were so damn good on it. I forgot which hockey game. It was an EA hockey game, and you would just check people with Yzerman and Fedorov and Brendan Shanahan and those guys.
NHL 94 was the game that I always played on. On it, that game was wild. As well, the Red Wings were good too.
Yeah, those non-salary cap Red Wings teams were fucking something else.
They got swept by New Jersey.
So in Detroit, Little Caesars, Detroit Pizza Company, they used to go, and it's funny, Little Caesars used to go into Little Caesars, and you got 2 pizzas in a bag. Like they sold pizza in a bag. Like when they first started selling pizza, if I remember correctly, Little Caesars, you used to get like a bag with your pizza. That's why the slogan was pizza, because you got 2, and it would be like I can't describe it. Anyway, back then you would go in there and you would get your pizza, and they gave the kids packs of hockey cards. So I'm not a hockey enthusiast now, but back then, we would go to Joe Louis Arena. Joe Louis Arena doesn't even exist anymore. Listen how I sound. But we would go down.
That's new though, right? Like they just got rid of Joe Louis Arena.
Yeah. I've seen Jamie Foxx at the Joe Louis Arena. I've seen Janet Jackson at the Joe Louis Arena.
What is? I'm looking at this pizza in a bag. I understand what you're talking.
Do you see it? Do you see
Is
it?
it a plastic bag or like a paper?
No, it's
bag?
like it's a paper bag. A paper bag. Yeah.
It's like the bag's like this long. It's huge.
Right.
I gotta send y'all a picture of this.
Hold on. Let me see if I can describe it.
I love how that like Chicago has like deep dish pizza and New York has like their whatever, and then Detroit style pizza just comes in a bag.
So essentially, you would have an elongated cardboard plate that it would go on, and then the bag would like go over it. So it wasn't at that point. It wasn't a full cardboard box. Back in the early 90s. So that's what it was. Pizza. So
this is. I'm looking at I just Googled Little Caesar's pizza in a bag. And it's just. I don't really know what to say.
Why do I get a weird sense that would give you some weird porn results too?
Little
Caesar's pizza in a bag.
Meat lovers.
Well, my wife told. Yeah, Little Caesar's meat lover.
Not searching that.
My wife told me one time that she had milk in milk in a bag, and I never heard of that.
That's a Canadian thing. Although apparently not all over Canada, because I had a huge discussion about this with Corey and Todd Vincent, who's in our Discord and on Twitter.
Apparently so, but apparently in rural South Carolina, it is a thing. And so she was telling me she had milk in a bag, and I was just like, I was flabbergasted. Like I just had no idea what to say about that.
Wow! I've never seen this before. Okay,
the milk in a bag. Oh yeah, it is Canadian. Austin's right.
This is why we're killing the ducks and the fish, because we're doing stuff like this, putting milk in a bag and end up in the ocean somewhere.
You just like stab it with your straw. It's ridiculous.
This is why turtles are hanging themselves and coughing up.
There is no closing mechanism for the ones that you use in Canada. Like it's like a big clear plastic bag, and they make like specific pitchers that like it's like an empty pitcher with a handle, and you can just like stick the bag in it, and it's like kind of sticking out the top, and then it has like a little thing that you just like cut the corner of it off. There's like no fucking latch to close that at all. Yeah. It's open in your fridge. You have to drink it really fast, I guess. I don't drink that much milk, so it would not suit me at all. But.
Not when you were in school. Not when you were in school. You didn't do. You had milk with breakfast and.
When I was younger, yeah, but I don't drink milk at all now. Like if I use like for cereal, we use like almond milk. Like I don't have.
Milk. Yeah, I use oat milk and almond milk. So there's too many milks. There's too many damn.
Milks. Link. Is that the milk that you're talking about?
No, it's dick pics. No, yes, that is exactly what I'm talking about. Yes.
Yeah, right. They call boob sack milk apparently.
Well, that's good. That's a good fact to have in the back pocket.
Yeah, so
we could have a milk poll too.
We should have milk sponsorship.
I will say I do love.
Thank you, Chris. That's what I'm talking about.
I love chocolate milk. Like I don't ever drink it because it's like it's got so much fat and like it's just terrible for you. But I'm like super picky about chocolate milk. I'm not a picky eater at all. I'll eat or drink basically anything. I am so picky about chocolate milk. It's all about consistency. If it's like thin and just watery, it's fucking gross. Like,
so you're not a Yoo-hoo. You're not a Yoo-hoo.
Yoo-hoo is disgusting. Yoo-hoo is just dirty water.
Yoo-hoo in a glass in a glass bottle is great.
I think I would be tempted to rather drink my own urine over a Yoo-hoo.
Oh my god!
It's just so the flavor doesn't go with the like the thickness, the mouthfeel. They do not go together at all.
There's this creamery near me. It's like so like NC State's a big agriculture school. Like they have like veterinary and like a bunch of ag stuff. So this creamery is run by NC State students and like people in their PhD master's program, and they get milk, and their chocolate milk's really good. Like that, it's like in a little thing like this, really high quality. You can see the cows that produce your milk like straight in front of you. It's awesome. It's
Do they have like the cow's name on the bottle as you buy it? Like this came from Joe.
What's it called? Oh, I have the hat. I have a hat that. Where's my hat? It's called Howling Cow because like they're the Wolfpack. It's called Howling Cow Creamery.
Wolfpack.
Yeah. Wolfpack.
If you're,
we should get them to sponsor us. Howling Cow Cream, sponsored by Howling Cow Creamery. Although they're not, they like don't get money.
Chris, send me that in the chat, and because I'm serious about that. How did you like that idea? Well, first of all, on milk. No. Send it to me in the Slack chat. I'm serious.
Okay, I was like, why?
No, send it to me in the Slack chat. Just with,
okay.
Or text it to me.
I'll text you.
If you're making your own chocolate milk with Hershey's syrup, like how long are you pouring? How long are you pouring that stream? Like for how long?
A second and a half.
A second and a half?
Yeah.
I don't believe in making chocolate milk that way.
I do.
It will never taste right, no matter what you do to it.
Where do you get your chocolate milk? Like where are you going for the artisan chocolate milk?
Hershey's used to make their own chocolate milk. I don't think they do anymore. I grew up like 40 minutes from Hershey, so like, and it was incredible. It's the GOAT chocolate milk, and I can't find it. If someone had, well, it goes bad. I was gonna say, if someone has like a fucking fridge full of it in their basement, I would pay so much money for Hershey's chocolate milk.
So what I do is I get milk and I put Hershey syrup into it. This seems like the same recipe they use. Like I don't think there's a lot of difference.
It's a mouthfeel thing. You're a beer guy. You should understand this. The mouthfeel is just so key.
I am really.
What are you a thick? You need it to be thick, or you need it to be what is? What are you saying?
Thick.
What's the consistency?
Thick, creamy,
melted ice cream chocolate milk.
Like I can't like.
I'm not a fan
of
chocolate
all,
ice cream.
But
it's gross.
Chocolate ice cream is no.
Chocolate
okay, so it's not the chocolate. I think you just like the consistency of the chocolate milk. Like, I don't think it's about the taste at all.
It's almost totally a consistency thing. But like if it's watery chocolate milk, like I think that like even if you took like the same recipe and you put it in like whole milk versus like skim, I think the skim would taste terrible and the whole would taste great.
Okay, I was gonna say,
if it was like
drink
good
half and half. Why don't you just drink half and half instead of drinking like coffee in the morning? Just pound back half and half.
We might have to try that at the expo next year.
By the way,
There's
one
no
of the
V in
best
that.
marketing. The best marketing campaigns I've seen recently is how all of a sudden chocolate milk is Gatorade and they're putting like protein content on it. Like that was not a thing when we were kids, but now athletes are drinking chocolate milk.
It's really good for recovery. My high school club soccer coach used to make us drink Choma between games at like tournaments and stuff.
There's no way that your high school soccer coach, when he was a kid, that was a thing. I mean, so just to like change, all right, we're going to sell this a different way. That's amazing.
Yeah,
that was like a big thing for us.
And more, you know. I'm just really. That's just a kind of bizarre thing to be picky about, but I don't think it's a chocolate milk thing. I think it's like you like thick milk, like you're drinking that whole milk, or you're drinking that buttermilk, probably.
Ew, no.
Do you like eggnog?
No.
See, I thought that'd be right up your alley too.
Yeah, see, no,
I like eggnog.
I don't know what it is.
I don't even drink milk. I hate milk, but I like eggnog.
I can't remember the last time I drank like white milk.
That's it.
Should we end this thing?
That's the end.
The milk talk.
Milk talk.